The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at CoolStuffInc.com. The Dice Tower, episode 510.
How to teach a game.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, Tom and I discuss some of our recent plays, including me playing Mechs vs. Minions with my kids, Tom playing the latest in the GIF series, and my son teaching me a game, which leads us into a discussion of the best ways to teach a game to new players. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Mrs. Frizzle of board gaming, Tom Vassell.
Eric, I believe that I've done some crazy things when I've taught children.
Yeah.
But I've never put their lives in the danger that Mrs. Frizzle does.
Yeah, I bet all those kids signed quite the waiver when they joined her classroom.
I mean, if you look at some of the stuff they're doing, you're thinking, man. As a kid, though, you're like, this is amazing. The bus went inside a human body and was attacked by white blood cells. Like, no, that's horrifying.
That's not
a
good.
Nightmare scenario.
One parent shows up early, like, Timmy has a dentist appointment. I'm sorry. Mrs. Frizzle's bus is inside a dog right now.
Those are great books, though. Okay, folks, well, welcome to our show. We're here to talk about games, and Eric is going to... Well, actually, before we get into games, first of all, thank you to everyone who said hi to us at Origins.
Yes.
Even though we're recording this before Origins, we're assuming at least 2 people said hi to us.
Yes, all of you, thank you.
We'll talk a little bit more about Origins maybe in a future episode. But we want to talk about some games here. But before we talk about games, let's talk about Dice Tower Cruise. Now, I know I mentioned this in like a lot of episodes.
Gee, Tom, is there free food on the cruise?
No, we really want you to join. So we'll say this. If you come on a cruise, Eric will play a game with you. Okay, maybe not. But I'll tell you what. A lot of times people ask us, hey, if I come to the convention, can I play a game with you? And I'm always like, because the chance of you playing a game with us at a convention is pretty small. Like even Dice Tower Con.
Well, certainly as it gets bigger, yeah.
Right, but on the cruise, there's only a few hundred people there, so your chance of playing a game with us is much higher.
Yes.
And we're also not running as many events, so we're kind of just chilling. And so I'm not guaranteeing a game with us, but the chances are higher.
But the events that we are running, I mean, we get like half the cruise into the Wits and Wagers game and the...
Well, half the people who come for us anyway.
Right, yes.
Okay, so with that, if you want to come on a cruise, check out DicetowerCruise.com. But anywho, let's talk about some games. Let's start with the biggest game of all.
Yeah, it's size-wise. So I was lucky enough to get part of the second wave of Mechs vs. Minions. This arrived recently. This is the release from Riot Games, cooperative, programmed movement, gorgeous miniatures in production. I mean, a lot of this has been talked about, but I wanted to mention the experience of playing with my kids who have so far adored this game. And also, I am so impressed with the way they packaged this whole thing. Not just the inserts, which are lovely, but the experience of opening the box is so cool. I mean, you open it up and it has like a letter on top of everything that's just like, you're opening up this crate of amazingness and entered this world and beware. And some things are sealed. There's a boss character that's in a sealed box. As you unpack all of these packets and folders and rip open envelopes as you advance your way through the game, there is also what do they call it? The easy peasy mode or there's an easy mode to the game, which I have wholeheartedly embraced because I have a 6-year-old playing this game with me. And 6-year-olds, even though he seems to understand the concepts, does not really, is not as much of an asset to the team as I would hope sometimes. He is much more interested in upgrading weapons as high as possible because in this game, if you have multiple yellow cards, for example, and you've stacked them all in one of your registers, one of your program registers, that is the most powerful yellow card you can get based on how many other yellow cards are underneath it. And so he just likes to charge up his weapons and ends up marching into a corner and knocking out some bad guys over there, but not really working toward the major goal. So easy mode is something that I really enjoy. It just sort of scales back how often the minions show up or how quickly things escalate. Each scenario is tweaked a little bit so that it has an easy mode. I'm wholeheartedly supporting that. We are up to the point. I like the varied missions as well. Each mission has a slightly different mechanical construct to it. Sometimes you're moving a ball around the field. Sometimes you're just trying to knock out bad guys. The one we're about to do, you have to get your guys from one end of the field to the other without letting any of the bad guys get to the other end of the field. Really varied goals, and that is also fascinating. I love how the same system can be tweaked to do different things. This certainly feels like a successor to Mice and Mystics for us. It's hitting that same sweet spot. I think this is a great fit for a family cooperative game, as long as you're into smashing some minions. I adore it. It's fantastic. I'm really glad that we added this to the collection. Mechs versus Minions, huge. The thumbs were already up, but actually having it in our hands and trying it with the kids, reiterating the thumbs up, great game.
I figured you would like it a lot.
Yeah.
It is really fun.
I'm just glad that it worked well with the kids.
My game is the next big yellow release, Arena for the Gods. This is a game in which you are some fantastical mythological warrior, and you are fighting in an arena. You have a special weapon. You have a special mount. You have a special armor, and you have a spell. And you are going to be using those things. At the beginning of the game, you will be auctioning off your hit points. Everyone starts with 20 hit points, but you auction them off to get the weapons that you might want from a pile of different weapons and things like that. And after everyone has their weapons and mount and armor and spell, you will then be taking turns running around the arena and whooping up on each other. You will do that by rolling these dice and using the symbols on those dice to activate your weapons and movement and other things, and just hitting each other, knocking each other, pushing each other into traps, etc. When one person's life points are gone, the game ends immediately, and whoever has the most life points remaining is the winner. Very simple game, a little bit along the lines of King of Tokyo, although much more combat-oriented. Maybe closer to Ultimate Warriors. I like it. I think it's fun. I probably need to play it some more as time goes by to determine my full thoughts on it. But so far, I'm enjoying it. Is it going to replace King of Tokyo? It is not, but I do like the whole go into the arena and just fight type aspect of it. So that's Arena for the Gods.
Next up for me is a small box roll and write game from Tasty Minstrel Games. This is called Balloon Pop. You have on your sheet of paper a bunch of columns. There's 3 colors of dice, and there are 3 different symbols that appear on those dice. So you've got 6 columns. And the numbers on these columns that represent the points you'll earn for working your way up them go up. You know, they start very low, and as you score these symbols and colors, you're going to mark them off on your sheet. But at some point, the column ends, and the highest number on the column is significantly less than the one below it. So you want to collect these symbols, collect these colors, and then stop. You don't want any more of them, because if you get too many, your balloon has popped, and you get fewer points. The mechanism here is that you take 3 dice and you roll them, and then you assess the symbols and decide if you want to do any re-rolling. If you want to re-roll, however, you can roll as many dice as you like again, but you must roll another die. And you can do it again, rolling up to 5 dice if you want. And you're thinking, well, sure, I'd love to roll more dice, but remember, you may not want more, say, red dice. Red symbols on your dice. And so if you are close to pinging the top of your column, maybe it's pretty risky to roll more dice and take the chance that you're going to roll those reds. But if you roll reds, then you want to re-roll those reds, and therefore you're rolling more dice. It's a neat little system, very simple, but a neat system in a push or luck game. The game ends after 3 people have pinged, or 3 columns have been reached, the top. Until somebody pops 3 balloons. After that point, you score. And each time a balloon pops, you initiate a scoring. So you may have been able to get your balloon close to the top and score it for 1 or 2 scorings, and then it pops and it's not quite as big a deal. But if you pop a balloon or a column early, then you're really hurting later on in the game. It's cute. It's very simple, straightforward. We tried to win it in a raffle, but were unsuccessful in doing so. I need to be in the right mood for this. This doesn't necessarily fit into my sweet spot. It's very light, but it's straightforward. I played it with my son, who enjoyed it as well. So it's a good time and a nice entry into the roll and write genre with a nice twist on the push your luck dice rolling. Balloon Pop from TMG.
The opposition party has a statement they'd like to release. I hate this game.
Really?
I really hate it. As soon as I played it, my fury was emanating from me in waves. And Z said, I don't think it's so bad. And I was like, all right, you review it. But man, it's push your luck. But I rolled dice and picked stuff, and maybe the balloon's gonna pop, and I don't know, and I don't care, and I'm just angry talking about it. I just felt like there was not much control at all, and you would pick things and hope that the balloon wouldn't pop, and then it would pop, and that's not fun. I like push your luck games when you feel like you are the one who's making it happen. When other people are pushing your luck, I get less interested.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like it was half a game, but that's how I feel about a lot of the Tasty Minstrel small games. They make these wonderful big games. And then in their Kickstarter's like, oh, we'll throw in a small game. And like, no, don't throw that in. That actually devalues the product. And I feel like this is one of those. I guess some people will like this. Well, obviously, Eric likes it. But
well, I like the mechanism better than the execution. I think if you want to roll again, you have to take a bigger risk by adding a die. I like that. It makes it a heavier choice when you decide to roll again.
I like the idea of blowing up a balloon. I think that's a great idea for a push your luck game. But hey, I got to play the 2 new expansions for Champions of Midgard.
Okay.
There's 2 expansions, Dark Forest and Valhalla. Now, Eric, have you played Champions of Midgard?
I have not.
Oh. Now I'm deflated like a balloon. You really got to play this game, Eric.
Okay.
I'm going to have to get you this game.
My little brother played it. That doesn't change anything.
Really?
Yeah, he was talking about it on Facebook the other day. He's like, we're going to play Champions of Midgard. I'm like, okay.
Well, it's a great worker placement game, and it's very similar to Lords of Waterdeep, where you place workers and get resources, but some of the resources you get are Viking warriors, and then they're dice, though. And then when you go fight combat, you roll these dice and see what you've gotten. So, to see if you beat the enemies. So it's a lot of fun. But it could be occasionally frustrating if you roll your dice and the enemy whoops up on you because you had a really bad die roll. Well, these 2 expansions add different things. They both add more types of dice. The Dark Forest adds hunters. If you played, this is not going to make sense unless you played Champions of Midgard. But hunters get more food when you send them out hunting. And it also adds a whole pile of new monsters to fight in a new area where you can go fight monsters. So that's great. It adds more variety and a 5th player, which I can take or leave because the game's fine with 4. But the Valhalla expansion is amazing. It adds another special ability for each player, which is great, and a leader die that you can send out. And then it adds 2 more types of dice, which are fun. But the best thing is when your troops die, when your guys die, you get a chip now for each troop that dies, no matter how they die. If they starve or fall off a boat or whatever, you still get the chip for them. And then you can spend these chips to get different rewards and different cards and special benefits. So even if your troops die, you still can get something out of the deal, which is great because it brings that whole glory, just like, Blood Rage. If you lose, you still got things out of that losing. And this does it too. These expansions are essential for me. Dark Forest, I could take or leave. I like it a lot, but if it wasn't in the game, I'd be fine. I'm never playing without Valhalla again. And honestly, I won't play without Dark Forest again either, because they really work together nice and well. Even new people, I'll teach them to. These games have elevated Champions of Midgard like the expansion for Lords of Waterdeep elevated it. They really do. They're fantastic and amazing. If you have Champions of Midgard, you need to get these. So much more fun. Now, instead of there being 3 different warrior types, there is 6 different warrior types. That's a lot more variety. And there's all kinds of mean, nasty monsters now. Oh, I love it. Love this game. Champions of Midgard Expansions.
Okay. So a few times now, I've been at some sort of gaming event with my son, my elder 9-year-old, and he has gone off to play something. And he's learning games that I'm not involved in, which is kind of cool and exciting. And recently he came back after having played with some families and said, "Dad, I got to teach you this game. We have to play this game." So we checked it out of the library. It was Quartz, which is a release from a year or two ago from Passport Studios. Quartz is a game about mining. It's sort of a push or luck game. You're trying to get different gems while avoiding these pieces of obsidian, and they all feel the same inside this draw bag that you're pulling gems from. And on your turn, you can either pull a gem from your bag, or you can play an action card that messes with other people, or you can decide, I have collected enough cool gems, and I'm leaving the mine. And then you avoid any possible, manipulation by your opponents, because these action cards can take gems from others and force them to draw more gems. If you draw multiple obsidian pieces, then they blow up and you collect nothing that round. You've had an accident, and you don't want that. That's bad. So he taught this fairly well. I seemed to understand it, although I was checking the rule book a few times. There's a really odd rule about these bonus cards that you get for leaving the mine. If you are the first to leave the mine, you get what's called a bravery bonus, which doesn't make sense because you were the first one to leave the mine. But anyway, you get one of these. As long as you're not in the top two, people are drawing these cards as they decide to leave the mine. And then when it gets to the last two, only the first player gets a bravery bonus, and the second to last player to leave the mine doesn't get anything, which I still don't quite understand. So I thought he was teaching it wrong, and I had to, look it up and make sure that's how that works. Also, this is a luck of the draw game. It's a push your luck game. You may go in for a gem, and on your first pull you get an obsidian, and then your second pull you get an obsidian, and that's it. And so it has that, which sort of annoyed me a little bit. I think what really annoyed me, and this is totally the game that we played, my son managed to get the most expensive gems in the game. I forget, they're orange, I think. These gems are worth varying amounts. They're different colors, and they're in different frequencies inside the draw bag. There are only 2 of these orange gems. He got them both, and you can save 2 gems from round to round. He sat on the 2 oranges for the entire game and just smugly sat there. I have these 2. I'm going to score a lot of points at the end, and I'm not going to score them now because that would put them back in the bag for you guys to get the points, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sit here and keep them until the last round. So that, and I realize that just is, me and my son being annoying. But I don't know if this is really my game. I don't really like the push your luck draw from a bag aspect. Maybe you get lucky and get the exact gem you want, and maybe you don't. It's okay. This is not one that I'm hunting down. But if you enjoy that sort of mining adventure, do I stay in the mine? Do I, mess? There's a lot of take that, taking gems from your opponents. I will swap you this terrible red gem for that purple you just picked up. That's Quartz. My son taught it well, and I'm glad I had a chance to play it, but it's not one I want to take home.
Well, there might be too much luckiness, maybe. You can really bust multiple times in a row, really fast.
Yeah.
For the whole game. I think Quartz is a okay game, but it's a little fragile. Like these games should give you some sort of, you could get something, but you might get something better, and then you bust. But in Quartz, you can literally bust without ever really having got anything out of it. I
mean, you get sort of if you do bust, you get a shield for the next round that will protect you from one of the obsidians, but it's still, you could plow through that and still get nothing. I mean, the chance is there.
All right. Well, the next game I want to talk about is LYNGK, although it's spelled LYNGK, I think. It's the 7th game in the GIF series.
Oh, boy.
Now, Eric, you've played many of the GIF series games, right?
I've played a few, maybe 2 or 3 of them.
What's your favorite currently?
The only one I've owned is Devon, which I enjoyed. but I don't know.
Devon is a really good one. I like Devon. Yinch is my favorite easily. Although I really like the last one they did. Oh, the names are starting to blur together. Yinch, Devon, and the last one are my favorite three. I'm not as big of a fan of Zertz. I never played Gif. Tamsk, which they have now banished from the series.
It's been shunned.
Well, this one, LYNGK, is basically there's a bunch of beautiful pieces on the board of 5 different colors. I believe the colors are red, white, black, blue, and green. There's also a few wild pieces. And they're all in this kind of grid of connecting lines. And on your turn, you pick up a piece or a stack of pieces, and you move it as far as a straight line as you can until it hits another piece, and then you go on top of that piece. But you have some rules that you follow. It has to be a piece of equal or lesser height. So if I have one piece, I can put on top of another piece. But I can't put a single piece on top of those 2 pieces. You can't have more than one color per stack. So if there's a blue and a red, I can move them on top of a green, but I can't put it on top of another red because there can only be one red per stack. And at various points during the course of the game, on your turn, if you want to, you can claim a color. There are 5 colors, and you can claim 2 of them over the course of the game. You don't want to do it too early because then your opponent can stomp on your color because they know what it is, but you don't want to wait too long either. Once you own a color, only you can move that color pieces. Your opponent can't. And those colors can now land on opponents' piles even if they're smaller. Also, they can do something called LYNGK, which is the name of the game, where you can bounce off your own piece and onto another. It's very interesting. I like it, I think. But the thing about the GIF series of games is I really have to play them a lot before I know my final opinions on them. I did not like Devon when I first played it. It had won Game of the Year for Games Magazine, and I was like, oh, come on. This abstract game. And I played it, I was like, this is lucky, boring. Then I played it some more, and the more I played, I was like, this game is really good. I still like to be clear, it was not Game of the Year. But I thought it was really good, and I think this one has the possibility for me to like it more and more as time goes by also. It's also very colorful and cool looking. That's LYNGK. And again, it's spelled LYNGK. All capital letters.
Sure.
So that is really, they're like the king of the abstract strategy games, really, the whole GIF series as it is.
Yeah.
And they're all being republished by Hook and Company. Unfortunately, they're being published in boxes that are way too big for what the game is. They're like Ticket to Ride size boxes.
Yep.
And the games are not that big. They're a handful of pieces in a board.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that Eric and I often get asked is, can we give tips on teaching games? Because I would imagine between the two of us, we teach a lot of games.
Yep. Yeah, that's for sure.
And I'm not saying that we're the best at it, but I thought we could give some tips on how to do it. So I wrote a little bit of an outline of how I teach, and Eric can jump in and criticize or disagree or agree with me as I go by.
Sure. I mean, we used to just point everybody to Ryan Sturm, but he's been off the air for a while, although I think you can still track down some of his old segments.
He also didn't play a lot of fun games.
Oh, okay.
So it's no, I'm just kidding. But he did really play mostly Euros. But the thing is, when teaching a game, I find it frustrating when someone's teaching a game and they're explaining how to do stuff, and I don't know why I'm doing anything.
Right.
The why, you should start with that. Like, even if it's like the goal of this game is to get the most points. That might be obvious to you, like, well, that's how most games are. But it might not be. Or the goal of this game is to be the first person to move your piece across a line. Or the first person to get 5 stacks. Mm-hmm. Because that's how you win in LYNGK, the game I was just talking about. You win by getting a stack. When you make a stack of one of each color, a stack of 5, then you remove that stack if your color's on the top. And whoever has the most stacks at the end of the game wins. Well, that's something you want to start with.
Yeah.
And then the reason you do that is because if you explain how to win, then everything you teach for the rest of the game can be understood and mentioned in light of doing that.
Right.
Why do I want to collect the blue resource? Because you traded in for the green resource, which trades in for these chips. And those chips win you the game.
Right.
Oh, okay. And I can't tell you how many times I played a game, or I've had someone teach me a game, and they never told me how to win until they were done explaining, and I was in utter confusion up to that point.
Well, it's because you forget stuff, without having that framework of, so this mechanism helps me win this way. Oh, and that one helps that first mechanism, which also helps me win. But otherwise, you may forget what certain levers do when you pull them because it doesn't seem important. You don't realize the importance of various actions as they're explained unless you have that framework of, this helps me do this, which helps me win. Okay.
I also think it's really important to give an overview, a brief overview. In most rule books, there's an overview. At the very beginning, they're like, blah, 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 blah. Such and such is a game in which you do this and this and this to do this and this. Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, skip the overview. Where's the rules?
Right.
But that's helpful for people to say, in this game, we are trying to acquire the most buildings in a village. So our village is the largest one. And if you can incorporate theme in any way, even if the theme is very thin, I often talk about pacing on theme and, theme that could be changed. Having a theme is a lot easier to teach a game because you can say, you are trying to get the most houses and trying to chase away people out of your city or whatever that theme is. If you mention that theme at the beginning, then when you talk about mechanisms throughout the game, you can say, you can couch the terms in thematic language.
Right.
Which actually does make it easier for people to remember what they're doing.
Right. As long as the game is well married with its theme. Although there have been times that I have emphasized a rule because it doesn't quite fit the theme. Like if a game doesn't have that good synergy with its theme, sometimes that is better than highlighting it is better than not, because people are going to because it's different than what it should be. They'll remember it better if you say, "No, all right, now this is the one thing that doesn't make any sense in a bicycle race, but you want to get the low numbers in this particular case," and they may remember that because it's so different.
And this is one I cannot emphasize enough, especially if you've designed a game and are explaining it to me. Do not tell me about exceptions and really cool things that can happen over the course of the game. Yes, I know there's that guy in the group who will scream bloody murder because he'll play the whole game and be like, well, if I had known that one tiny rule, I would have played differently. Guess what? He's going to say that no matter what you do. So you might as well say, listen, there's some other minor details, but I'll explain them as they come up.
Right.
There might be a card that when it comes up, it changes how things are done. You know what? We'll wait till that card shows up. For example, if there's a lot of cards in a deck that do different actions and there's a display of 5 of them that people can choose from, do you know how many cards I explain? I explain 5.
5, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't explain the whole deck of cards because that's a lot. I just explained those 5 because those are the ones players can take at that point in time.
Right.
And I'll tell people, as each card comes up, I'll tell you what it does. And also, the game will have started. And so when a card comes up, they'll be like, oh, I see how that card works. Yeah. But if you sit there, and I've had people do this, and explain all 60 cards in the deck, I will give you 60 paper cuts. Don't do that.
Occasionally, like if there's an array of things in this deck, and if there's 1 or 2 cards that are so vastly different from everything else you've seen, I may highlight one or 2 of those at the end. Just so you know, this card is in the deck. It may not show up, but it is such a game changer when it arrives that you should know it's there. But
it's also helpful to mention if there's a card that cancels other cards.
Yes, yeah.
Like a counter. Like, just so you know, there's a chance someone could play a card that will cancel your card you played or whatever.
Right, you need to know that that's a possibility.
Don't have a fist fight.
Right. But knowing the general idea of the types of cards that are in a deck like that is enough. You don't have to be so specific.
And I know that Billy Bob has arranged all his pieces in nice rows, but something I always do when I teach a game is I grab pieces from each person, stick them on the board, and say, for example, and show if this person did this and this and this, then this happens.
Right.
Because so many people learn better from seeing, not hearing. Mm-hmm. And especially when the game has weird terminology, but you're like, look, if there are 3, we're going to score this area. If there are 3 blues and 2 yellows and 2 pinks here, then Susan gets this many points and Sally gets that many points and I get this many points. And people are like, oh, okay. And it makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's just an easy way, a show, not just tell.
Yes, absolutely.
Other things to talk about. First of all, I always emphasize when I'm playing that it's a learning game. I know that you'd be surprised how many people take gaming very seriously. Just continue to push and say, we're all learning here. That makes some people feel better. Mm-hmm. They know it's a learning game. If you do poorly, no one's judging you. I always tell people there's not money on the game.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter who wins, which I should point out, you as the teacher, could you remember that?
Yes.
You don't need to crush everybody at the game. In fact, don't.
But what if it's Merchant of Venus? I feel like I need to.
But this is another thing that I do and I find helps people a lot. When I take my turn, I'll say, I'm going here.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going here is because I can get these resources and see that thing over there? I might buy that with those resources. And I'll explain my strategy out loud. And you might say, you're giving away secrets. Well, yes, but it gives people my thought process.
Right.
It's like a slower, more measured Rado. People can hear the thought process and they're like, oh, okay, that's why he did that. And that, again, that helps because when I see someone like, I'll go here and grab this. I'm like, why'd they grab that? Is that important? Should I have grabbed those? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah, I try and pull back a little bit on the strategy discussion, although sometimes if I'm hemming and hawing over 2 possibilities, I'll say, I could come over there and take that from you, but I really think that the better move is to move over here and wait for this event to happen. I think that's going to happen soon. And I don't try and harp on it too much, and certainly not like after a third of the game is through. I'll pull back on that pretty significantly and just take my turn. But explaining what I'm doing mechanically, I'm moving, I can move 3 spaces, so I'll move here, and I'm going to take this card, and I'm going to collect that resource because this card lets me do it, and that's it. Just so that the framework of a turn is very clear.
Also, folks, really don't worry about some people at the table. You know that guy who complains you didn't explain every single rule because he wasn't paying attention? He's never going to pay attention. He's going to complain no matter what. So don't worry about that. Focus on everybody else. Also, because there are people who, once you give them something, they will look at it. I never hand out player aids until I'm done teaching. Or if I need to show them things on the player aid, but I don't hand them out at the beginning of the game. You know why? Because people will look at that and won't listen to you.
Interesting.
I guarantee it. I promise you that's what people do. Now, some people will follow along, but there will be some people who will just be hanging out there. Oh, I know how to do this. I get it from the player aid. Well, maybe.
I don't know. Sometimes I find that having the player, depending on how the player aid is set out, I may model my teaching around the player aid. If it's really well put together and has the flow of a turn figured out, that may be a good framework for teaching the game. And then having people have that in front of them, as long as you make sure they're following where you are on the aid and not reading ahead, sometimes I find that a little easier to explain as a teaching tool and not just a reference tool.
Specifically, if you're playing Race for the Galaxy, do not hand out the player aids or people will run screaming from the table.
Maybe.
Then this one might sound really obvious, but look online. There might be other people teaching the game. I mean, if Rodney Smith has taught the game, he is like the master of teaching a game. Mm-hmm. But he's not the only one. There's lots of people out there teaching how the rules of games, and seeing how they teach and explain it might help you learn how to explain it better. And if worse, just play their video.
Yeah, if you don't want to do it.
I'm not recommending that everyone does that, but maybe that is what's best for you. I know some people who play a watch-it-played video before they play the game with people.
Or forward the link, knowing if you're going to play something on a particular game night, you forward the link to everybody saying, hey, we're going to play Terraforming Mars. If everybody wants to see a video to familiarize themselves with the rules first, then it's a lot easier for your explanation. You will miss fewer things if everyone's already familiar with the basics.
Well, be warned, though, that a lot of people, if you send those links, they're not going to watch it.
True.
It's like homework. They'll be like, I was going to get to it, and then I didn't because life and things.
Right. Then you have to teach it anyway.
But don't get all nervous about it. You have the power here. You're teaching people the rules for a game. You will make mistakes occasionally. You will mess up. But you know what? You're teaching people and helping them play the game more effectively. They're going to ask you questions, and sometimes don't get distracted by questions like if someone goes, if there's a 3-way tie, what happens? I'm like, I haven't even explained to you how the game plays yet. And there's always going to be someone at the table who wants to be 3 steps ahead. What do these cards do? I'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'll explain those in a moment, but that won't make any sense until I explain to you how the whatchamacallits and doodads and thingamabobs work.
I mean, one thing that we didn't, that's sort of an overarching thing with all of this, is be comfortable with the rules yourself. You need to know this game backwards and forwards so that when somebody asks one of those derailing questions, you can say, oh, no, I'm getting to that. Hang on. Instead of, you know what, I don't know yet. Hang on. Stop. I mean,
but
sometimes
there's nothing wrong with looking up the rules to
right.
Looking up the rule. Don't feel like you don't know it. Oh no! Oh my!
Right.
No, look it up. Who cares?
But
tell
you
them to
should
stop
at least
asking obscure stuff.
Have the framework down. And sometimes this is unavoidable if you're playing a game. If everybody's playing for the first time, you've just cracked the shrink at a convention, you want to play this game, you can't necessarily do that. But if at all possible, the teacher should be familiar with what they're doing, even if the details need to be looked up.
Well, that's all the thoughts I had on that. I hope that helps some people. I mean, the more games you teach, the better you'll get at it. Listen to other people's styles. Who do you learn best from? Copy that person. Mm-hmm. People are going to teach differently, obviously, and you'll get your own style and your own rhythm. But I think teaching games is a lot of fun. I like teaching games. I just taught Flatline this past week to some people, and they said, are you going to play? And I was like, no, I'm okay not playing. I like teaching games as much as I like playing them. Yeah. I really do. Not everyone does, but if you enjoy the game, and you probably do because you're teaching it, that joy will come out as you teach it, and people will be able to tell. So teach games and have fun. Yeah.
One last thing I would add is as you are going through your explanation, pay attention to your audience as well. If you're just plowing ahead with whatever you planned to talk about for your structure of teaching a game, and somebody's missed a concept and you're not paying attention to the glazed look in their eyes, then you're going to plow ahead and they're not going to hear anything beyond where they lost you. So I always like to check in after I get through, a couple steps on a turn. I'll say, that all makes sense to everybody? Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. And move on from there. Check in with your other players just to make sure you haven't left anyone behind.
Well, with that being said, I think it's time for us to end the show, Eric.
And leave all these people behind. I get it.
We're tired of from our Origins trip, right?
It's true. I need a nap.
Alrighty, but hey, it's only a week and a half away to Dice Tower Con.
It's what?
Yeah!
Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. Oh, we're definitely in the thick of it now.
I am excited about Dice Tower Con, folks. We got some exciting things coming for that, and it's, again, the chance of you running into us at Dice Tower Con is almost 100% if you want to.
We're all over the place. It's hard to miss us.
But for now, we're going to end this show. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. Check out our forums. Go to our website, dicetower.com. You can see our forums there. Lots of great feedback and things in our forums. People talk about all sorts of things. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode number 510 was recorded on June 8th, 2017. Coming up next week, join Tom, me, and a new special guest for our Top 10 Puzzle Games. This podcast was sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. If a catastrophic event has become more than you can handle, find out how we can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom and me, with assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Seary. Coping with the fact that your commanding officer is German TV puppet Bernd Das Brot, provided by The Captain is Bread. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at Dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network, including The Broken Meeple, Flip the Table, The Game Pit, The Long View, The Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast, and Board Game Blitz. Find out more at Dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
What a day it's been. I'm now going to teach you, Eric, how to record a podcast.
Oh, fun. So what happens if it doesn't work the third time I hit the record button?
I'm not done explaining yet. I haven't even explained the end goal. The end result is...
What if I need to convert files very near to the end of the game?
I swear, if you talk again, you're going to play a different game.
What if I can't get out of the booth?